Hey everyone, welcome to Chris I's Top 5. On today's episode, we're doing my top 5 favorite YouTube channels. So if you haven't been to my channel before, I usually do these top 5 lists of TV shows or movies or stuff along those lines. If you haven't already, please subscribe below, and this way you can keep up to date on future videos and stuff like that. And as always, comment. Leave an idea of what you guys think. If you like what I'm doing, if you want me to try a different top 5 list or something along those lines, I'd love to hear from you guys. Anyway, let's get things started.
Number 5.
Okay, so at number 5 we have Final Cut King. This guy's name is That King, and he has a couple different YouTube channels, so I'm gonna kind of lump them all in together. There'll be links down below in the description if you guys want to go check it out. And it's basically what this guy does is, he's a filmmaker and he knows how to do all these crazy special effects, and he's really big on Vine right now. Back when I was in school, I was working a lot on Final Cut and I didn't really know how to do certain things. So when I kind of searched for tutorials on how to do stuff, I found his site. His site was based a lot around Final Cut tutorials, hence Final Cut King. So I learned a lot of stuff like special effects, editing tricks, camera movements, stuff along those lines. It's a lot easier to watch somebody else do something and showing you how to do it than just reading it in a book. You can do it either way, but I prefer the visual method. If you haven't heard of Final Cut King before, I totally suggest looking him up on YouTube. He has some really popular videos. If you haven't seen the Jedi Kittens, yeah, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, just go on to YouTube, search Jedi Kittens, and you'll totally see what I'm talking about. I believe there's like 2 or 3 of them. One, they're pretty freaking hilarious and, adorable little kittens in Star Wars stuff. It's pretty awesome. But he also does tutorials and shows you like how he did those special effects. So it's something that you could, well, not something that you could probably do on your own, but you can at least try. So, that's half the battle. So yeah, number 5, Final Cut King.
Number 4.
So number 4, we have WatchMojo. This is a website that is dedicated to top 10 lists, and they basically span almost anything you can possibly think of. I've seen, the regular stuff like, top 10 action movies, or top 10 fantasy movies, top 10 comic book characters, and just, things that you would normally think to see. But then they go really deep into like things that you wouldn't even contemplate. I see stuff like, top 10 characters that were put into suspended animation, which is like, who the fuck would ever think of that? Well, these guys, I guess. If you like those type of things, you can either go to their website, WatchMojo.com, or you can go to their YouTube page, just type in WatchMojo, and literally hundreds of top 10 lists are gonna pop up on your screen. So, go scroll through them, see if you like any. If you do, watch them, subscribe to those guys. It's a pretty cool site. So yeah, number 4, WatchMojo.
Number 3.
So at number 3, we have Film Riot. These guys, very similar to Final Cut King, I found when I was trying to figure out how to do stuff. Throughout my time making videos in school, I'd come across like certain things where I didn't know how to do it. And it might be like a certain way to do a certain shot, or I was in need of a cheap way to make a boom pole to hold a microphone. And that's when I found these guys. They show you a whole bunch of different things, like how to shoot certain things, how to do visual effects, tell you how to make things cheaply, how to make a cheap Steadicam or a cheap slider, or like I said, a boom pole. They just have an enormous amount of talent, and they do their own thing. They have really cool short films that they do also. So the Film Riot guys, they all, they'll teach you stuff that you didn't know how to do. So if you ever have an issue where you want to build something to do with filmmaking, like a camera rig or a Steadicam or something like that, go check them out. They'll help you out. If you need to learn how to do some type of compositing, or you want to do a special effect, say you want to have a Harry Potter magic war, they can show you how to do that. It's one thing, okay, you're making your own stuff, and that's pretty cool. But to share it with others, that's something like, they don't need to do that, but they do. They have an awesome YouTube channel. Go check it out. You'll learn a buttload about filmmaking. And the other good thing about them is that they do a weekly thing on Facebook where they literally tell all their followers to ask them questions. So if you need something specific where you don't know how to do something, you can go and you can ask them, and maybe they'll answer it. So yeah. Number 3, Film Riot. So in today's episode, I'm going to do things a little bit differently. I'm going to put the honorable mention before number 2 instead of before number 1. And that's only because number 1 and number 2 are really, really close. And I almost consider them both like, they're both like number 1 on this list. But that's not how lists work. So there's going to be a 2 and there's going to be 1. That's beside the point. So let's just do our honorable mention now. And then I'll do the top 2 right afterwards. The honorable mention for today is Variant. And they are kind of a spin-off of Film Riot, as the same guys make both channels. And in this one, it's all about comic books. They talk about Comic-Con, and they talk about comic book movies, talk about comic book characters, and they talk about actual comic books. What I like the most is the history of videos, and it's basically on almost everybody you can think of. Like, I've watched ones on like Captain America, Wolverine, Spider-Man, Batman, Joker, and a whole slew of other great comic book characters. So if you ever have a need for any comic book information, maybe you don't feel like reading it yourself, just go to the Variant YouTube page and see if there's video on it, because there probably is. And if there's not, you can always put a comment below, because just like Film Riot, they're pretty cool with, you know, if they get enough people asking for something, they'll do a video on it. So yeah, Variant, honorable mention this week.
Number 2.
So number 2, we have Emergency Awesome. I came across this channel a couple months ago when I was looking for Game of Thrones content, and he has a lot of it. He basically, even now, when there isn't even a show on, he's doing weekly Game of Thrones episodes that will talk about almost anything, from specific characters to specific story arcs and stuff along those lines. Other than Game of Thrones, he also does video content for The Walking Dead and a whole bunch of comic book stuff. You know, he was at Comic-Con and he did a whole lot of videos on that. You know, when there's a new comic book movie, he'll talk about that. He'll give like a history of, and it's pretty awesome. The guy knows what he's talking about. I totally suggest you go to his channel, check it out. Emergency Awesome, number 2.
Number 1.
So number 1, we have Comic Book Girl 19. Her YouTube channel is based a lot on comic books, but it also has crazy videos on Game of Thrones. And that's really what brought me to her channel in the first place, was the Game of Thrones content. I mean, she has these videos that she does what she calls an epic history. And when I say an epic history, it's an epic history. It's very similar to what Emergency Awesome does. And the reason that Comic Book Girl 19 gets the top nod is mainly because of like production, I guess. Now, I think like Emergency Awesome, he does everything on his own. It's just him. He said he doesn't have like a crew. And I don't think Comic Book Girl has a big crew, but she does have like, she has somebody working on, you know, filming and editing and stuff like that, because she has a lot of graphics and cool like visual effects and motion graphic stuff and things along those lines, which kind of gives her videos like that extra pop. The first time I went to her site, I was searching for Game of Thrones histories, because again, I haven't read the book, so I just kind of wanted to get backstory from, like, you know, get more than what the television show is telling you. She has an epic history of all the top houses. So if you ever want to hear about like the backstory of the Targaryens or the Starks, Lannisters, or Baratheons, she has all of that. But she also does other like great things. She does a lot of different movie reviews, television show reviews, and she talks a lot about comic books. I can remember, for instance, she did this review on Catching Fire. It was like almost like an hour long, but there were so many things that she talked about that I had no idea about, and it was just very informative. She knows what she's talking about, so I totally suggest going to her channel. It's really awesome. Go there, subscribe. Yeah, you won't regret it. So, Comic Book Girl 19, number 1. So that's it for today's episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. All the YouTube channels that I talked about today have links in the description for you guys, so if you want to go check them out, please do. I'm sure they will have no problem with you doing that. Otherwise, I hope you guys, you know, like the video, comment about it, and, you know, if you have any ideas of future videos for me to do, please, you know, feel free. I'd love to hear from you guys. Also, you can subscribe below, and you can also find a link in the description to my Twitter page, SeeNoEvil21, and there you will find a lot more stuff where I'll talk about future videos and give you guys a heads up and stuff along those lines. Otherwise, check out some of my older stuff here and here, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Take care.